If you are used to an era when half of the UFC belts were held by fighters from the US, it's time to update your picture. As of October 2025, almost all men's titles are held by foreigners. Heavyweight, Tom Aspinall, England. Light heavyweight, Alex Pereira, Brazil. Middleweight, Khamzat Chimaev. Welterweight, Jack Della Magdalena, Australia. Lightweight, Ilia Topuria. Flyweight, Alexandre Pantoja, Brazil. In the US, there is one big flagship on the women's side, Kayla Harrison with the bantamweight belt. Plus, the strawweight division is undergoing a reboot. Zhang Weili vacated her title to move up to flyweight. This is not the end of the American era, but rather a shift in the balance of power and infrastructure. Now, let's look at why this happened and what to do about it. The cold facts. The global talent pool has become wider than ever. The UFC has long been hunting for the best, not only in the US. In the heavyweight division, the new king is Britain's Tom Aspinall, who is currently defending his title against Cyril Gane. This is not just a sign, it is a marker. The basic pillars of the division have long since ceased to be made in the USA. America has lost its monopoly on mixed skills. In Russia, the Caucasus, children are taught from an early age to pull in a chain, wrestling on the mat, sambo, grappling under the net. This is not performing a single trick, but a school of tempo, pressure, and converting any position into a point with the judges. An example is Georgian bantamweight Merab Dvalishvili. Motor, clinch, transitions, control, and a series of defenses at the belt. Hunger versus comfort. Islam Makhachev put it bluntly but accurately. As soon as the UFC started signing our guys en masse, the titles started rolling in. The point is that where coaching staffs live and breathe the sport 24/7, there are fewer distractions around the fighter and more discipline in their daily lives. This is not romanticism. It is the statistics of recent years. The American path to MMA is late and jagged. NCAA wrestling provides a foundation, but the transition to the cage often happens late, and the priorities are different. Bachelor's degrees, coaching positions, alternative careers, or money in related formats, boxing influence, media, etc. Meanwhile, for many young men from Brazil, the Caucasus, Eastern Europe, or Spain, Georgia, fighting is not an option but the #1 social ladder. The modernization of rules and refereeing priorities has strengthened Wrestling America, but not the United States. Today, it is not just top control that wins, but the ability to turn every micro-position into effective damage and dominance at the net. Schools that combine wrestling with striking, wrestle boxing, wrestle Muay Thai, have yielded results outside the US more quickly. Geography and matchmaking. Key tournaments are nomadic. Las Vegas, Abu Dhabi, London. The home advantage of the US has become blurred, and flagship cards are increasingly tailored to the prime time of global markets. This means less home time, more flights, and adaptation for Americans, while rivals from Europe, Brazil, the Middle East sometimes have even shorter flights. A brief and to-the-point breakdown by division heavyweight. After the era of Miocic and Jones, the center of gravity has shifted. Aspinall is a combination of athleticism and understanding of distance on his feet, plus the ability to accelerate in the moment. American heavyweights lack this speed of decision-making and counter distance at the fence. Light heavyweight. Pereira is unique. A kickboxer with deadly timing mechanics and phenomenal wrist control. He forces his opponent to play chess on his board. The American light heavyweight school today is more about all-rounders, but that's not enough against a pure predator. Middleweight. Chimaev has shown that strike-based wrestling punishes static defense and straightforward entries in a new way. This is not dirty pressing, it is the conversion of chaos into judges' points and damage. The US has historically been strong in the middleweight division, but right now they are lagging behind in adapting to this pace. Half middleweight. Jack Della Maddalena is an example of how the European-Australian striking school has learned to live in the cage. Tight angles, short combinations, working ahead, defending against transitions in the moment. This is a mirror for American striking. Technical, pragmatic, without fuss. Lightweight, Topuria is all about discipline, distance, timing, and IQ. He takes away his opponent's weapons before they have a chance to execute their plan. American lightweights, except for veterans fighting for their legacy, increasingly lack this kind of cold-blooded plan for the fight. Bantamweight. Merab is living proof that motor skills and free-flowing combinations can defeat any beautiful striking if it is not backed up by elite-level wrestling. And he systematically defends his belt. Women's divisions. In bantamweight, the US has a new locomotive, Kayla Harrison. Tough clinch fighting, pace, the mentality of a champion with a judo foundation, and an already won belt. In strawweight, there is a restart. Zhang has moved up, the title is vacant, and the window of opportunity is open for an American breakthrough. In flyweight, Valentina Shevchenko's experience and structure dominate. It is impossible to compete with this without discipline. For the US, this is both an opportunity and a challenge. Why does the US have fewer belts? Training strategy. There are still many star gyms in the US, but fewer system factories where careers are built from the children's section to the title camp in a single vertical. Abroad, such verticals are already the norm. Personnel migration, coaching staff, catmen, analysts, they go where there are more title chances and money. the centers of power have dispersed. External noise. There is too much alternative money around fighters from the US. Media, collaborations, boxing expos, podcasts, fan events. This is not evil in itself, but it eats away at the focus on the dirty work of wrestling. Matchmaking without favoritism. The UFC builds its roster strict. In the past, American prospects sometimes prove themselves for longer. Now, many quickly get nightmare-style matchups and drop out before the title race. What should Americans do to get their belts back? Enter MMA early. Don't wait until the NCAA. Children's and junior programs should be mixed cycles. Boxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, not one base, then we'll add on. Mandatory rotation of camps. A month in a Caucasian wrestling gym. A month in a striking school with a Thai focus. A month in pure boxing. Cyclicality instead of comfort. The cage comes first. In the US, they often box beautifully but lose at the fence. More scenarios. Back to the fence. Transfers in the moment. Attacks on the arms, touched head when rebound. Judges math. Train damage and transitions. For each transfer, a combination of elbow to knee strikes. For each clinch, knees, short hooks. Not just control, cause damage. Set the motor in the calendar. 2 camps a year is not enough. You need a basic 10-12 week conditioning block without fights so that the engine doesn't depend on the card. The psychology of hunger, internal team rules, limits on media in camp, digital diet, KPIs for sparring, transfers, explosiveness that affects staff bonuses, screening opponents for nightmare style. You need specially selected stages where the prospect goes through a Dagestan fighter, a devilish kicker, a dirty clincher, as long as it's not a title fight. More international training camps. If the key events are in Abu Dhabi or Europe, then the camp should be there too. Adapting to time zones and the arena is part of the plan, not just a day or two on site. Conclusion: the Americans didn't fail. They relaxed at a time when the rest of the world started playing better and with more discipline. The belts went to those who built vertical training structures and learned to convert every micro position into damage and points. The good news for the US is that the infrastructure, money, and personnel are still there. Reboot the system and the cycle will swing back. The bad news is that now the competitors will not give up their titles by default. They will have to be won back where everything is decided in 2025. In the grid, on pace, and on discipline. In the coming months, the situation may shift again. The tough title in Abu Dhabi, the restart of Straw, the reissue of the women's flyweight, these are the entry points for a new American surge. But only if nostalgia for the good old days is replaced by a plan, training camps, and hard work. Otherwise, the flags on the championship posters will continue to be foreign. Key facts confirmed. Reigning division champions, ESPN. Merab's bantamweight champion status. Zhang Weili's transition and vacancy in strawweight. Kayla Harrison's title. Islam Makhachev's comments on the reasons for the shortage of American champions.